everyone, welcome back to Kidding Around. My name is Melanie Smith, and I am so excited that you are here with me today for another Wanderlust Wednesday. Today we will be traveling to the country of Guatemala, and we will be making these very cool worry dolls. Before we do that though, if you like what you're seeing here and want to follow along with all of Kidding Around's videos, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also if you really like what you're doing here, please share us with your friends. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we are going to pack our suitcases and hop on that plane, and we are going to fly to Guatemala. As you can see, Guatemala is in Central America, and it's largely bordered by Mexico and Honduras. If you remember, we traveled to Honduras on our last Wanderlust Wednesday. As you can see, Guatemala is also bordered by the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. It is known as the land of trees, and as you can tell, it is a very beautiful place. So let's talk a little bit about what makes up Guatemala. First, let's talk about the people. Many Guatemalans, in fact, more than half of them, are descendants of the ancient Mayan civilization. Here is a picture of one of the famous Mayan temples, and you can find temples like this throughout Guatemala. These are ancient structures that were used by the Mayans. Moving on a bit, Guatemala's main exports, meaning the things that they sell to other countries, are fruits, vegetable, flowers, and clothing. By that export list, I bet that you can tell that Guatemala is a great place to grow things. It is warm and provides a great climate to grow things like fruits, vegetables, and flowers. The main spoken language in Guatemala is Spanish. 93% of Guatemalan citizens speak Spanish, and in honor of that, I wore my Spanish shirt today. It says "Más amor, por favor," which means more love, please. But in addition to Spanish, there are 21 Mayan languages that are still spoken as well. If you were to try to eat in Guatemala, some of the foods that you would find would be maize, also known as corn, chilies, and black beans. I have to tell you, my stomach is rumbling just thinking about all of those. I think I would eat very well in Guatemala. If you were looking for a sport to play, you would most likely find football, which is also American soccer. And before we move on, we should talk about a few Guatemalan inventions. We have Guatemala to thank for chocolate bars, the number 0, and instant coffee. Can you imagine living without the number 0? That seems so hard to imagine. So thank you, Guatemala. Another thing that Guatemala is known for is their worry dolls. I didn't know much about these until a few years ago, but when I read about them, I really fell in love with them. I love the lore behind them, and I love their purpose. Here is an example of a Guatemalan worry doll. They are made out of scraps of fabric, wool, and wire, and they are made all over Guatemala today. In Guatemalan tradition, it is said that a Mayan princess was given a gift by the sun god. This gift was that she could solve any problem any person had. This doll is to represent that Mayan princess. And she and these dolls are still used today as people tell their worries to them and then slip them under their pillows overnight. And in the morning, it is said that most people wake up a little less worried. I will tell you, I have sometimes told my doll my worries, and I am a true believer that it absolutely does help me worry less. I also have to tell you that there's no magic in this doll. Simply saying out loud or telling someone your worries can make them feel less worrisome. It also helps you to be able to put them out of your mind, at least temporarily, so that you can stop worrying for a little bit. I just wanted to do a quick drop in here to say that even though worry dolls don't have any actual magic, they are great to have around because they serve as reminders to tell you to talk about what's bothering you and what's worrying you. So that is why we are making these. When you see them on your nightside table, it will remind you that it's important to talk about those things that are concerning you. All right, back to it. So today we are going to make our own type of worry doll that you can tell your worries to before you go to sleep. It will help you sleep better, and I think you will also feel better in the morning and a little less worried. Okay, so to do that, we are going to need a few supplies. We will need some yarn. Any color that you would like is fine. You will need some popsicle sticks. These are big popsicle sticks, but you can also use the normal size popsicle stick too, whatever you have on hand. You will need some scissors. You will need some fine tipped markers. This is just to draw the face on your worry doll, so black and red or just black works too. You will need some glue, and you will need a few buttons as well. So let's get started. Looking at the worry doll that we'll be making today, you will notice that it has a hat and clothing made out of wrapped yarn. So once you have the yarn that you would like to use, you are going to wrap it around the popsicle stick. Before you do that, make sure to put a little bit of glue down so that your yarn will stay stuck where you want it to stay. All right, so I have my glue down. And then I am just going to put the yarn at the top of that little glue patch, and then I am going to wrap it around. I will tell you that this hat is a little bit hard, at least for me, to get started. But once you get going, you won't have any problem at all. You just kind of have to hold that end down as you get a few wraps going. So you can see there, I've got my wrap going, and this is much easier. The other thing about the hat is that you want to cover the top of your popsicle stick, which also becomes a little bit tricky. So just do the best you can. You see that I went down and then I started back up to get the top of the hat. The yarn wants to kind of slide off that curved part of the stick, but if you just kind of hold it and go slowly, you should be able to cover it up pretty well. And again, it doesn't have to be covered up perfectly at all. Maybe you want your worry doll to just have its ears covered, and it doesn't necessarily need the top of its head covered. However you end up doing it will be totally fine and totally wonderful and totally perfect. All right, so you can see that I have kind of fudged a little bit on the top of that hat. You definitely can see that the top of the stick is poking out. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue right here and then snuggle that top piece of yarn down over it in hopes that it will stay stuck there and kind of keep the top of the stick covered. But if it doesn't, I'm not worried. It will look great. Okay, and then I glued the end of the yarn there. You can see this is not working very well for me, so you understand you just kind of have to keep moving it around. You know, I've actually decided that I am going to take that under that last piece of yarn, the last end, and put it on the back side, and maybe it will stay stuck better. Remember, white glue dries clear, so you don't have to worry if there's white glue that's showing. In 30 minutes or so, it will be completely clear and you won't see it. All right, I think that that's a pretty good little hat. So now I am going to take some other colors and I am going to spin them around for the clothing of my worry doll. So I'm just going to go section by section, and I will put the glue out for each color as I go. So now I've chosen this multicolored yarn, and it works the same way. Once you get it started, it works pretty well, and you will see that the hat was much more complicated than the rest of the clothes. So it's easy sailing from here on out. You can see that I am lining up my yarn right next to each other. You can do that, but you can also really pile it up too. However you want your worry doll to look is the way that you should make it look. There's no right or wrong at all. So now I have flipped over my stick to the back side, and I am going to put some glue right here, and then I am going to stick the end of my yarn right there, and I think that that will that'll stick pretty well. I see that my little end wasn't glued on this side, so I'm now going to go back and try to get that end to stick in there. Okay, there we go, and it may pop out. I'll just continue kind of putting that back in the glue. It will eventually dry where I want it to. All right, I like that color, but now I'm going to move on to another color. I'll pull out some black, and I'm just going to glue just in this section. You know, I think I've decided I only want 3 sections of color for my Worry Doll's clothing. So this will be my second of 3 sections, and just that little, that little first step of getting started is sometimes hard. Let's see, if I hold that little end underneath, I think that will work well. And then I will gently wrap the yarn around. There we go, that's going pretty well. Okay, now I am going to cut that off, and I will flip it over, and I will put some glue down, and then I will put my end in that glue. You can see that this end, the first end, is popping up. That's okay, I'm just going to stick it down a little bit more. Maybe I'll add a little more glue. You know, after you finish getting this wrapped, you can make some final adjustments and then put it down, and that will definitely help keep the yarn glued. Right now, everything's glued, but I'm also upsetting it as I continue touching it and wrapping it and holding it. So this is a good start, but I will also make sure to kind of finalize my ends with some glue before I put it down and let it dry. Okay, now I have my final section. I'm going to make this orange. I know in my recent, in the clipped trees, I noticed that I did pink and orange. And then when I went for yarn today, I was noticing I again went for pink and orange. I think there's something very happy about that combination. So I guess I just kind of gravitate towards it. The really fun thing about these is you can make them any color that you want, any design. If you want to put a pattern down, you can do that. If you want to go totally random, you can do that. It is completely up to you. And I think that is the best kind of art and the best kind of project where you get to make these types of decisions. Okay, so I'm going to put some glue down here for the start of my orange, and then I'm going to put some glue down here for the end of my orange. And you know, it's just a matter of just to keep pushing down those ends into that glue until they finally stick. It takes a little bit of time for the glue to kind of soak into the fibers of the yarn. All right, well, once I have that done, I will go back over and I will touch down all of the ends into the glue, and I will make sure that they are going to stick. And then I would put this down. You know, I'm going to recommend that maybe you put a piece of wax paper or a piece of cardboard underneath. So if the glue kind of seeps out, that it would fall down onto, probably wax paper is the best because it won't stick to the wax paper, and then you'll just be able to lift off your Worry Doll. I have this down on my pretend wax paper right now, and now I am going to draw my face on my Worry Doll. So I'm going to leave the Worry Doll down, and I am going to draw it as it is laying down flat. So I'm drawing 2 eyes, and then I am also going to draw a smile. She's very happy to be taking away my worries. And then I am going to pull out some buttons. I have some buttons left over from previous crafts, and I am going to glue on my buttons. This is a really fun and easy craft, and I think it has a great benefit too. So I am going to put the glue down for all 3 of my buttons at once, and you see that I am not picking up my Worry Doll. I've attached all of those ends so that I don't want to disturb them now. All right, and then I am going to place my buttons down, and my Worry Doll is complete, just like that. So then I would let this dry for 30 minutes to an hour, maybe even 2 hours, and then I would be able to pick it up, I would be able to talk to it, I could tell it all of my worries, and then I could put it under my pillow. And in the morning, I think that I would be waking up a little bit more refreshed and a little less worried. I would love to see pictures of your Worry Dolls. Please ask a grown-up to take a picture and post those on our Facebook site. Well, I am so glad that you joined me today for this Wanderlust Wednesday. I'm so glad that you traveled with me to Guatemala. I hope that you will join me on Friday for our fun Film Friday lesson. Make sure to pop some popcorn because we'll be talking about a fun movie and doing a craft that's related to that movie. Thank you so much for joining me today for our Wanderlust Wednesday lesson. Thanks for kidding around with me. I will see you next time.